think Saturday was an important day for everybody in our organization to step away from football for a minute, and that was one of the things I really encouraged our kids to do is, after the game we talked about, even going into the game, we talked about how we're not going to allow setbacks to define us as individuals or our organization, and remember that football is something that we do. It's not who we are, and to be able to step away and take a deep breath, spend time with family, friends, go for a hike, enjoy the beautiful fall weather here in northern Nevada, and I think it was needed. The kids were great yesterday. They came in, good energy. Obviously have to face the music and look at the mistakes that we made and learn from the past, and push forward. Had a pretty good walkthrough / up tempo practice today, shortened, and then now we got to get into the grind of this thing. And so I think it was valuable for us to get to our guys a day, and even as coaches, we need it too. And so big challenge this week. I mean, this is a team that they're kind of like us. They play close games. I mean, they're in a lot of games, and they can kind of either make it happen or not at the end. And you look at the Boise State game, and it's a 13-7 game going into the fourth quarter. And Ashton Genty pops a couple runs. It's a different game if they're able to hold up in that situation. And even this last week, they're very obviously Hawaii's always been a little bit different, playing on the mainland versus playing on the island, and that's a tremendous home field advantage. I just think about the pride that the people of Hawaii have in that football program, and obviously with Coach Chang being an alum, how important it is for him to get that thing on the right track, and you can see the progress they're making. You can really see it. I mean, these guys are playing extremely hard. A play here, a play there. That's kind of how I look at it. And they're one of the better defenses in the Mountain West Conference. Their front seven is very stout. Their linebackers, man, they fly to their run fits. They're very physical. They're hard to run the football against, and obviously that's something that we've got to find a way to do that. On offense, Schrager's a veteran player. He's got a lot of weapons. They've moved the ball really consistently. They've just had a hard time once they've gotten to the red zone they've had to settle for more field goals than they have touchdowns, and so that's kind of been a problem for them. And so I anticipate this is going to be a war, and we got to get our guys ready to go do that. And the travel's always interesting, the environment's always interesting. I've been to their setup there, but during my time in the WAC and playing bowl games out there was always at Aloha. And that was a different environment in and of itself. And now with their on-campus setting, it does look like they're drawing well and they're getting some folks there. And but I think it'll be a very different environment, as it always is when you go to Hawaii. Travel's difficult. They play. They're a different team, man. They're a different team. You can just see their demeanor and how much pride they take again in defending their home turf. So happy to take any questions.
Why did you kind of give everyone Saturday off?
Well, because we didn't take Thursday off this week. On a short week, we just went. So that was our day off in 7 consecutive days. So that was kind of planned going into the week. It wasn't something that we did as a result of the game one way or the other.
Why do you think it was important for them just to step away, though, and get a refresh, I guess?
Yeah, I think it's important for everybody. I think it's we pour so much of ourselves into this as players and coaches, and just to have some perspective, be able to, even if all you do is watch other people stress out, there's some therapy in that. And you realize that every Saturday, half the teams that play win and half the teams that play lose, and it's not just you. And that that you can take a lot of pride in the fact that we've been competitive, but it doesn't get you that payday. But I know this: if we don't keep doing what winners do, we don't keep showing up and working our tails off, we don't keep grinding and practicing really hard, then we're never going to have that breakthrough. So there's no shortcut in this deal, and this is. It's grueling and it's excruciating and it's painful. Culture building and turning things around is a challenge, and it's not for everybody. But I do think it's important to gain some perspective from time to time and step away from the game.
How did you spend your Saturday?
I went and spent both my kids were in town, which is a rarity when you have a 24 and a 20-year-old. And so my wife and my daughter caddied my son and I, and we went and golfed, and then went and had a nice dinner together and watched Texas, screw it up. So that's kind of the way it was, and it was awesome. I mean, it was a beautiful day, and enjoyed getting to spend time with my kids.
How'd you play?
Not good. I might have been distracted, Chris.
The run game wasn't as strong as it had been in previous weeks. I know Fresno State's a pretty physical defense, but I guess did you identify maybe where the biggest issues were in getting the ground game going?
Yeah, I think part of the thing that showed up to me watching the film was the team's speed. If you just watch their guys move to the ball and watch us try to get away from them, it was a different level of speed. And Fresno's always been really athletic and really fast. And some of the things that we had done well in previous weeks in terms of stretching defenses out and forcing them to defend the perimeter, and then as a result being able to soften the middle of the defense, that was problematic. They did a good job of leveraging the perimeter in general, but we didn't gain numbers advantages on the perimeter, and thus we didn't gain numbers advantages on the inside either. And so it was a little bit of a kind of a catch-22 in that regard. I don't think that we were unprepared or didn't play hard. I don't know that we had the same edge in that game that they did. And obviously you can point to the 2 snafus on punt. That aside, it's a 3-point ball game, and we had opportunities. Even, they had controlled field position in the second half, but we dug ourselves out of some holes, which was hugely impactful for us to give us a chance. And we didn't capitalize on that. And some of it was back to some old things that had hurt us, a procedure penalty that puts you in a 1st and 15, or we get a positive play on first down and then Cortez decides he's going to be a knucklehead and that puts us back against the chains. Who knows what the result of that's going to be if we play a cleaner game. And so there were some penalties on offense that we had not been doing for the last couple of weeks that we did, and that affected not only our ability to gain a field position advantage, it also affected our third down efficiencies. And that's one thing that we've been really good at. Run the ball, play good on third down, play good in the red zone. Well, we took away 2 of those 3, some of it by hook or by crook. It's hard to run the ball when you're 1st and 15, and that's what you're going to do. Well, you're probably not going to do that. We were able to hit some shots early. That was huge for us to get us some momentum in the game. But they put the clamps on us, and some of it was their special teams play putting us in bad positions. Some of it was errors that we made, whether it was schematic or mental, in terms of penalties, and that's hard to overcome.
When you look at the 2, inability to punt the ball, was that more like a scheme thing they did?
One was a scheme, and one was human error, and that's not acceptable. That's something. It's like I spent a long time coaching special teams, and it's funny because I know Baxter. I know that guy. That guy says it's the tight ends coach. He doesn't coach tight ends. All he does is special teams. And one of the things that I've kind of tried to, Parker's a young coach, but he's going to be a really good coach. And sometimes, unfortunately, to become a better coach, you have to have some disasters. And nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to have to experience it. But, I told him he can write John Baxter a thank you note because he made him a better coach on Friday night. And that's the fact. And he'll be better because of it. I wish it didn't happen. Sometimes those things have to happen, just like with players, to grow and learn. And, John Baxter is a guy that's been a special teams coordinator for almost 30 years at places like USC and Michigan. And, he knows what he's doing. And he exposed some things for us, and that'll make us better down the road.
Nate was able to get into the end zone. He's been playing a little bit more. I guess what's unlocked some ability for him to get out on the field?
Yeah, consistently, the GPS numbers don't usually lie over time. And consistently, that guy's running the fastest on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And so if you're gonna run a deep post, why not have your fastest guy do it? And that was kind of the, make that happen. And he'd been getting up. We had some things schemed up for him in some previous weeks, and it just didn't click the right way for that to him to be the primary or to get the ball to him. And he took advantage of it. And it was a good throw, but it wasn't an easy catch. And he made the play, which I thought was awesome. And going into one thing, I don't know, we always talked about it when I was at Boise, but the end zones here are a problem when you run deep take routes because you're going to get hurt if you're not careful. It's a safety issue. And you can see almost get down immediately if you're going into that end zone, and it's on both sides. We've had a couple guys get injured in the offseason just training out there. And so I think that's a courageous throw and catch, right? Because there's a good chance I'm running into that wall. And luckily in that case, it was a throw that he could go down and get and not have to put himself in harm's way. But I can't believe it's been that way for as long as it's been that way here. I mean, it's not – you don't have a run out. Show me another stadium in the country that's like that. And so it does affect our ability to throw shots in those situations. Kind of affects the other team too.
Super late kick time, not surprising, going to Hawaii and whatnot. But with how late it is, do you have to make any adjustments in the week up to it, or do you just want to keep the same routine that you've had these last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that we are doing. And part of it's just because of where we're at in the season. And as we're a morning practice outfit, it's bump things back a little bit, get our guys an extra half hour of rest this week. for a variety of reasons. But number one is like the sun comes up and it's a little warmer out. Kids are going to move around a little bit better, feel a little bit better. Sleep is the number one recovery thing that you need to have. So giving our guys a little bit extra rest. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll take Sunday off because we'll get back probably around 7:30 in the morning. Take Sunday off, and then we'll bump it back another half hour going into the Colorado State week. So we're going to try to extend their rest periods a little bit as we go through this next couple of weeks to try to adapt for that. One of the things I'm not in charge of this, but and I'm sure there's a lot of reasons why Hawaii plays at 6 o'clock Hawaii time, but there ought to be we need to have a conversation about that. We really do. Like for them and for us, because if they have to travel the next week, they're losing all that too. If you're going to go to the island, this is when you play, and that would be helpful. But I've never gone out there and not played at 6 o'clock, so it is what it is. So we're going to travel on Thursday. We have our normal Friday practice that we'll have a real practice on Friday, and then get into our Friday night routine once we get back to the hotel.
And with that run and shoot offense, they love to run. Not everyone, if you're an average football fan in the country, gets to see that any given week or year or whatever it may be. How would you describe the run and shoot offense in your terms from what you've seen?
There's elements of it that are different than what I can remember when Coach Chang was slinging it around or Brennan. I think what makes it go has always been the elements of the run game and the running back screen. Because the second that you start saying all we got to do is defend these 4 wide receivers, and they start popping, like a lot of their explosive plays this year, come on, quarterback draw, slip screen to the running back, right, and scrambles. Like a lot of their explosives have come in that area, and it's almost like it's a little bit of fool's gold. You think all I got to do is defend these 4 wideouts and everything's going to be fine, but the better they are running the football, conventionally or unconventionally, and I would consider their quick game and their screens as an extension of that run game, the more dynamic their offense is. And so that's the thing that's maybe underrated.
Definitely. It is Hawaii. Are there any side things planned, or is it strictly business? We're here for football.
I think it's obviously USS Nevada. You've got Arizona. There's a lot of things to do. But because the way we operate and we practice on Friday, that kind of eliminates that downtime. So we're filling it with football. We're going to get up in the morning. We're going to go practice. We're going to give these guys a little time to relax and shower. Then we're going to come back and we're going to watch that practice and have position meetings. Then they're going to get a little downtime, and then we're on to our normal Friday night routine. So even though we're heading over a day early, because we practice on Friday, but we practice on the day before the game, that kind of fills that void that maybe in another situation you'd be like, hey, let's go do this or do that.
Coach, just what level of concern do you have with the special teams? We've seen kickoffs out of bounds, inability to protect the punter in this last game, and then just short punts as well.
Yeah, we've got to be better. I mean, how concerned am I? I'm very concerned. Yeah, there's a heightened sense of urgency in that world. And that's one of the things I even talked about. It's not like, I don't know that we have to have multiple gunners because we don't really kick the ball very far. They're almost all going to be forced fair catches. And so, it's not just – it's not just the scheme, it's also the execution by the specialists in certain situations. And, while Killam did have the one kickoff out of bounds, I think it was week 1, wasn't it? It's been a long time ago.
Yeah.
He's also been pretty good. I will say that. And Matt has, he's been dealing with a hip flexor deal, which happens with a lot of kickers, especially as they get older. And he's managed that throughout the course of the week. And he's been really good the last 4 or 5 weeks. So I'm less concerned about that and I'm more concerned about making sure that we got our protection issues squared away and that we have the ability to gain some level of field position advantage when we do punt.
Do you have an update on Brendan Lewis and Naki's availability this week?
I think we'll know something definitive by this afternoon, 3 o'clock or so on VLU. Naki's going to be out for another week.
Coach, with concern of Brendan being as well as suited he is as a running quarterback, is there any amount of carries that you feel like, okay, don't go over this number, or is it just as the game goes?
No, I don't. I never looked at it like that. You got to do what you got to do to win, and I think Bilu would be the same.
What is his issue?
Not going to address that specifically.
Would Chuba be next up?
I would say this. I have a tremendous amount of confidence in both AJ and Chuba. And if Bilu's not able to go this week, I think that there's going to be multiple quarterbacks play in this game. Let me just say that. And I think, if he can't go, whoever has the best week is going to get to start, but there's going to be a role for both of those guys in the game plan.
Do you feel like anything changes from what you're able to call with those two quarterbacks
No.
in?
No, I think they can both run the offense, the entire offense well. Now, you might say, hey, this guy might be a little bit more adept at that skill or that skill, but neither one of them has a deficiency that I'm like, don't call that. I think all of them, all three of those guys can run the offense in its entirety.
Reading the Athletic story on Coach Lubick, it said that he was not traveling for this game. Is that still the plan?
That's I think that was a misinterpretation of what we talked about. I think what I had said was we'll take a look at it because that was one of the things that, even coming back from San Jose, it was like, okay, how do we make sure this guy gets his rest? And what Matt and I had talked about was let's make that a game time decision. How are you feeling that week? And, honestly, that's every single day. He's going to have good days and he's going to have bad days. And so what we had a long talk about was prioritizing his health and making sure that if he's not feeling good, that hey, we'll figure this out. We're going to play football, at Nevada, and we're going to go to Hawaii and have a game. And if you're there, that's amazing and awesome. And if you're not, I know you're going to help us prepare the right way, and we'll go, play a good game.
So that decision comes like on Wednesday or Thursday?
Yeah, I think a lot of it does. It just depends on how he's feeling, because the travel is hard on him, right? I mean, you think about you guys are all young, so for the most part, it's not easy on anybody. But when you're dealing with something like that, it can be more demanding.
Who is kind of like next up in play calling if he's not able to go to a game?
We operated in the spring with Mike being the play caller, and then even through fall camp and even through the season, there's times where we script the calls and even the game and the way we game plan that it's not we kind of rank all of our game plan calls, so it's not that difficult to get that done until you get into situational stuff. So I'm confident with Mike in that situation.
Do you have a favorite memory or a memory that stands out about playing games at Hawaii? I know Boise and Hawaii had a lot of great games back in the day.
Yeah, I don't. We got beat by them when they went to the Sugar Bowl. I know that was a tough loss on the Rock. And there is one funny one. The one time we played in that bowl game, we're playing East Carolina. And I don't know if we didn't have a very good scouting report or what the deal was, but this guy named Chris Johnson took off on a sweep. And our fastest player had a good angle on him, and he just ran away from him. And I'm like, who the heck is this guy? And then about 3 months later, he goes to the combine and sets the combine 40-yard dash record. So I remember that night pretty good. And it's like I said, it'll be different. We're not at Aloha; it's a little bit different vibe.
You got some Hawaii players on your roster. Is that an important recruiting area for you moving forward, or how would you assess that?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's a place that there's a lot of natural connectivity. I've spent a lot of time recruiting on the island. We've got a number of coaches here that have spent time over there. We've got Polynesian presence on our staff. We've got a significant Polynesian presence on our roster, and so I think that it's an important place for us. I think it fits our footprint.
How would you describe your relationship with Timmy Chang? He was an assistant here for half a decade, so I know Reno means a lot to him.
Yeah, I don't really know Timmy very well. He's really a nice guy, very cordial at the Mountain West meetings, but professionally our paths have never crossed. I actually had a former colleague that was working for him out there, and when I was recruiting a couple kids to Texas from the island, I would stop by the facility, and he was always awesome, gracious guy. A lot of guys on staff there that I'd crossed paths with. There's kind of at that time there was kind of a Big Sky flavor to his staff, and so got to know a couple of those guys. But he's very, very gracious guy. That's how I kind of relate him, and class guy, and like I said, I really you see the progress they're making there and how hard he's trying to bring back the pride to that program.
Michael Coates leads the nation in pass breakups, according to a graphic you guys put out. Why has he become so good as a player in his last year here? He didn't play too much last year.
Well, I think that some of that credit has to go to Joey Thomas and the development he's done, not just with him, but think about like Chad Brown really wasn't playing corner at all, right? And so the confidence that the preparation has for him, and one of the things that we recognize is that he's really good man-to-man, so let's not ask him to do a whole lot of other things. And he's been spectacular in that regard. So, he's not just the PBUs, but 3 interceptions, and he's been a clutch player for us. And we're going to need him this week with as much as they're going to throw the ball.
Is there a lesson you want the players to take out of the Fresno State game specifically?
I don't know that there's any one lesson that you ever take out of it. There's always a million things that come up, and you think about football, and you're going to have the things that you did well and the things that you didn't do well, And then you're going to multiply that by every single guy on the roster. You know, from the left tackle to the 3 technique to the quarterback, everybody's going to have plays that, you know, they executed at a really high level and operated at a really high level, and then they're going to have plays that they want to have back, right? And then when you compound that over guys that, you know, like make poor decisions, or you have a procedure penalty when you're trying to gain an advantage on a first down and it puts you back 5, and you got to kind of look at those and go, well, this is the margin. I know I've used that term a lot. This is the margin of victory and defeat for us, right? And like I think our staff has done a really good job of getting these guys prepared week in and week out through game plan, through practice execution, and I think we're putting our guys in positions to win. And that's a coach's job, is to put your team in a position to have success to go win a game. And now we got to kind of look at it and go, okay, individually, what do we have to do to get over that hump? And every week's a new test, man. Every week's a new test. You get just like we get nothing against Fresno for how we played against Oregon State, we're going to get nothing against Hawaii unless we say, you know, hey, I'm going to have more competitive maturity in that moment, or I'm going to you know, hold my water and do my job when it's a hard count, or whatever the case may be, right? And so we just got to keep doing what winners do, man. There's no secret pill.
I mean, 5 games left in the season, kind of 2/3 of the way through. Has this season gone by quickly for you, slowly for you, I guess?
Probably a little bit of both, honestly. I mean, you know, the days are long, but the time is short. That's just kind of how football is. And so, you know, I mean, year one's always interesting because you don't know what you got, you know, and then you kind of get into the battle, and maybe we have a little bit more than I thought we had, and it's still not quite enough, you know, and some of that has to do with the competitive balance of scheduling and all those types of things too.